Hello, my name is Janelle Ralph. I am the Executive Director of Compassionate South Carolina, also known as CSC.Health. We are a not-for-profit C3 patients advocacy group fighting for the rights of patients in South Carolina to use alternative treatments. Currently, one of the pieces of legislation that we are working on is the Compassionate Care Act. We feel that there's a lot of benefits to be had through using medical cannabis for different types of conditions. Today we're going to be interviewing one of the advocates that's worked hard on this issue, Mack Hudson, Mack Hudson, I don't want to mess his name up, and Judy. I'll go ahead and let Judy introduce herself.
Hi, I'm Judy Gannum. I've been a part of CSC.Health for almost 2 years now, and I'm happy to be here with Mack Hudson and Janelle. And Mack, can you tell us a little bit about your accident and how you first were relieved of the pain caused by the accident?
My name is Mack Hudson. I got in a car wreck whenever I was 16 in 11th grade in high school, and I fractured my skull, my neck, and I shattered my L1 vertebrae in my back, and that's what left me paralyzed from the waist down. And I was in rehab down in Atlanta for 3 months doing physical therapy and occupational therapy to learn how to live in a wheelchair and relearn my life basically. And at first I didn't really have a lot of pain, and they had me on low dose of pain medicine periodically when I needed it, but over the years of sitting and never getting up, it just got worse and worse, and they started putting me on a higher dosage of medication, of pain medicine, and it just wasn't doing the trick, and it would leave me nauseous sometimes and just wouldn't give me good pain relief, and I'd always develop a tolerance and either have to take more or switch to a more powerful kind. And over the years I was introduced to medical cannabis, and the first time I ever tried it was whenever I went to California in 2011 and saw a doctor and actually got prescribed.
Can you tell us a little bit about your experience there when you went to California?
Yeah, whenever I was in California, I went to a doctor in Los Angeles and ended up paying him about $150 to go see him because they didn't take my insurance, or insurance didn't pay for all that kind of visit and stuff. And after I saw him and went in there and he did his initial evaluation and I figured out what was going on and realized that medical cannabis, that I was a good candidate for that. He prescribed it to me, and I was able to go to the dispensaries out there and try it legally, and it worked wonders. And since then I've been to Colorado twice on 2 different occasions to medicate.
So you also have a Colorado card as well, or you're just medicating under their program there?
Yeah, because it's recreational there.
Okay. So I have a question. When you currently, what type of medications are you being prescribed through the pharmaceutical route? And when you go to other states to legally treat, because obviously you can't legally treat in your home state, South Carolina right now, when you go there, how much of those pharmaceuticals do you have to use, or have you found that this is a much better substitute and gives you more relief than them? And maybe what's the side effects of cannabis for you? Can you kind of give us an overall?
Yeah. Currently I'm prescribed 10 milligram Percocet and 30 milligram Roxycodone, and that's 120 count each per month. That's 240 high-powered narcotics per month that I can get easy as ordering a pizza. And they aren't very effective, and I end up taking more than I'm supposed to in order to get the effects that relieve my pain. And those side effects that I get from that is just being incoherent sometimes, just not being myself, and blurred vision, double vision, not being able to focus my vision, and also my speech, my voice will change. It gets a lot raspier, and sometimes I'll get nauseous and actually throw up from it if I take it on an empty stomach. Whereas if I was medicated by cannabis, there really are no major negative side effects.
So when you've been medicating with cannabis, have you noticed that you don't need as many of these high-powered opiates?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, probably whenever I went to Colorado, I didn't take any narcotics, just
The whole time
Wow.
you were there?
correct.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And that was for a week, whereas here I would take 3 to 4 a day.
So, we're going to be spending some time, Judy and I, going around the state and interviewing people that are that have been involved in this movement, and really kind of the advocates and, the legislators, lobbyists, and this big army of people that we have fighting to pass medical cannabis for patients in South Carolina. And so, just so everybody is clear, we don't fight for recreational use of cannabis. We are literally doing this for patients like Mack and like our children, who on the back end, once the program is up and running, will benefit. But that being said, what brought you to this, and what would you like to see come out of this?
I want to open people's eyes to the world of non-narcotics and the use of alternative medicine versus just going and getting medications prescribed to you and taking them and just building up a tolerance. I want to spread my personal experience and realizations that I've come to over the years, and just let other people see that just because one person might not agree with it doesn't mean that the people that really can benefit from it need to be punished.
Exactly, and I think that's what we're all fighting for. I don't think people have a concept of how many patients in South Carolina that will actually be able to benefit from this legislation. And hats off to you for traveling to another state. I mean, you were born in South Carolina?
Yeah, I've lived here all my life. Just like everybody doesn't benefit from narcotics. My grandma, she has terrible back pain all of her life because in her 20s she got a herniated disc and just had degenerative problems all of her life. And she's unable to take narcotics because she just can't take them because she's allergic to some medications and other ones she just has really negative side effects from, like really intense nausea, and she'll just be sick and she just can't take it. And other people have very addictive personalities, and if they start taking the narcotics for long-term chronic pain, it turns into more and more. And when they build up the tolerance so much that they aren't able to get any relief from the narcotics, they start experimenting with higher powered drugs and more deadly drugs, such as heroin and I don't know all the drugs, but.
So, if some people would say that we are trying to replace one drug with another drug.
Cannabis isn't a drug, it's a natural herb that grows out of the ground.
So your side effects when you were treating in Colorado versus the side effects on opiates, what was it
I
like?
would get sleepy and I could actually relax and go to bed, versus opiates to give me almost an energy boost sometimes and make it the exact opposite of going to bed. So when I take my opiates to relieve the pain, then I'm not able to go to bed because I have too much energy. Whereas the different kinds of cannabis, you have indicas and sativas, whereas like an indica, more of a relaxation weed, and it'll help you out and like let you ease off, like you relieve your pain and let you go to sleep, and it makes everything better. Whereas like a sativa, you can wake up in the morning and you can medicate, and it almost gives you a little bit of pick me up, and it still gives you the pain relief and effects, and it just helps you out.
Nobody's ever died from cannabis.
Exactly.
And hundreds of thousands of people are dying from opiates.
Deadly.
Every year.
Daily, yeah.
So the one question I wanted to ask you, how do you feel like when you're on the opiates, how are you cognitively feeling? Do you just feel like completely out of it? And then when you were on the cannabis, just the cannabis alone, were you able to function and do more things?
Oh yeah. I definitely, if I was on just cannabis, I feel a lot safer to operate any kind of like recreational vehicles or a car or anything. Whereas if I was to medicate with opiates, there's no way I would even try to drive just because it messes up my
Oh
vision.
yeah, no.
No.
Well, and in the legislation, obviously nobody should be driving under any type of drugs
Medication.
or medication or anything like that. I mean, that's part of part of the drunk driving laws and
Yeah.
the narcotics laws in the state for driving under the influence. But
just day-to-day activities though, just remembering stuff and my thought processes and where my mind is. Whenever I take my opiates, my mind's almost in a daze and it's just not thinking like it should. And people say that if I was to medicate with cannabis, I'm gonna be stoned, and that's not true, because you can take a low dose of it and relieve the pain, and it doesn't give you all the psychedelic effects and that people associate with it, like automatically.
so we are actually currently right now in Columbia, South Carolina. We're actually at a hotel downtown because Mack today was down at the State House. He was meeting with several legislators and talking on this issue and hopefully bringing awareness. You know, at the end of the day, we are an educational based organization, but in order for patients to have access to this important medicine, then we've got to have the legislation to be able to allow that to happen. So how was your day at the State House, and how, you know, did you feel like we're getting any improvements? I know it's a little crazy down there,
Oh,
but
yeah. I definitely feel like we're making progress. And after talking to Representative Hill, I felt that there's a lot more people that are for it than against it. And even the ones that are for it aren't necessarily 100% for it because they don't have the backing of
their constituents.
the constituents that are backing them, that are voting them into place. And we just need to make everybody's mind, we need to try to persuade everybody to agree with the fact that just because some people don't agree with it doesn't mean that we need to punish the ones that can benefit from it.
Absolutely.
Like I said earlier. And going from around the State House, I realized that a lot of people are very open-minded, and that if we get the correct plan and figure out how to
regulate
it and distribute the money and how to get everything, all the laws and all the fine print tuned in, then I think we'll have a lot more people for it than against it once they realize that it's not just a drug, that we're not trying to pass it for recreational and just because we want to go smoke marijuana.
So what do you say some of our opposition, some of the things that they've said is kind of a resounding voice that this needs to be FDA approved. What would you say to somebody that said, well, you can't have this because it needs to be FDA approved before you're able to access this, knowing what you know about cannabis?
I'd say that kind of one of the things my dad taught me always growing up is just because it's not legal, or just because it's legal doesn't make it right. So whereas just because I'm medicated with opiates doesn't mean that's the right thing to do, and just because I would prefer to medicate with cannabis doesn't mean that that's the wrong thing to do. It's all about different people react to different medications in different ways, and cannabis might not be for everybody, but it's definitely not as harmful as opiates are to the people that can benefit from it.
So one of the other things too that one of the other oppositional things that we hear a lot from our opposition, which, I mean, basically at the end of the day, we're talking about law enforcement. Law enforcement, I ultimately respect everything that they do on a day-to-day basis, and I understand their concerns when it comes to public safety concerns around this issue because of, you know, for years and years we've been taught that this plan is horrible and it's bad, and there's a lot of public safety concerns around it when a lot of that is propaganda. We know that now. People that have been in the movement understand that. But one of the things that they also said is that we're going down a dangerous road to recreational. What would you say to them? And so their fear of this tightly regulated program that we are supporting, that has a system set in place that has dispensing, with the oversight of the Department of Health, and very few limited licenses will be available for these facilities to operate, and they are highly regulated. They are like Fort Knox in the security that they have to be able to grow and manufacture this. And one of the amendments that we're pushing for is to even have law enforcement oversight to come into those facilities and do inspections with DHEC or enter those facilities so they are aware, and a 24-hour live feed into the police department that will be on the cost of the person that is growing. And all of that being said, it goes through that process, then it goes to the manufacturer. Manufacturer has the same stringent requirements, then it gets transported to the dispensary where you as a patient have to qualify under certain conditions that we have proven through research medical cannabis can help with. Those conditions are listed, and if you have one of those conditions, you can go to your doctor. Your doctor has the choice to recommend it to you. Then you take that recommendation, which you have to pay for out of your pocket, you take that to DHEC, and then you buy a card from DHEC, which is another expense, that makes you an ID registered card so you can have cannabis. Then you take that to the dispensary and show your ID registered card, and everything is tracked through a system that is set up just like the opiate tracking system with the pharmaceutical. And you're only allotted a certain amount, just like you are with opiates. It's really set up just like a pharmaceutical structure model. And we have to do it on a state program because, you know, the federal government says it's a Schedule I drug, has no medicinal value, so we have to do it as a state-ran program. What would you say, having to go through all of that, and this is all we're supporting, what would you say to the opposition that says, well, you patients, because we're afraid that this may lead to recreational use, you patients need to suffer, and you can't have access to this?
I'd say that prescribing us opiates and not giving us option is making us suffer more, because that funnels where our options are, we only have one option, and that's opiates, or either be in pain all the time, and opiates will lead to a much deadlier addiction or much deadlier long-term effects on the body than long-term effects of cannabis. And
Absolutely. Judy, did you have any questions?
If you had one thing, Mack, that you would want to share with everybody about medical cannabis, what would it be?
it's not what everybody initially thinks about medical cannabis. Whenever people think of that, they originally think of stoners, and that's not the case. They're very well-known people, that very intelligent and respected people in the communities that could benefit from medical cannabis and medicating with cannabis versus having to have the option of being in pain or medicate with opiates. And I think the long-term effects is way worse with taking painkillers in the long run.
Thank you. We really appreciate you speaking
Yes,
out.
thank you so much, Mack, for listening, letting us talk to you today, and we're just so happy for all the advocacy work you're doing, and we just want to thank you for everything you're doing.
Oh yeah, thank y'all for giving me the opportunity.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for joining us.
Yes, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you guys soon. We'll be doing many of these across the state.